Tom, a struggling mechanic, wiped his hands on his already stained work overalls. His eyes were fixed on the small boy outside his garage, staring at his broken wheelchair, tears streaming down his face. Without hesitation, Tom knelt beside him. "I'll fix it," he promised, knowing he wouldn't charge a dime. The boy's mother, standing nearby, gasped, overwhelmed by his unexpected kindness. Days later, as Tom wiped grease from his hands, a deafening roar filled the sky. A private jet landed nearby, and what happened next left everyone speechless. Before we dive into the story, please like this video and comment where you're watching from. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories. Now let's begin. Tom had seen hardship before, but something about the way the boy clutched his armrest, his face scrunched in frustration, struck a deep chord within him. The wheelchair's front wheel was completely twisted, making it impossible for the child to move forward. His mother stood beside him, looking helpless and exhausted. Tom stepped forward, kneeling beside the boy. "Hey, buddy, looks like you ran into some trouble," he said. The child looked up at him, his big eyes filled with hope and uncertainty. "It broke," he sniffed, glancing at his mother as if unsure whether to continue. Tom turned to her. "Let me take a look at it. No charge." The mother's eyes widened. "Are you sure?" "I don't have." Tom held up a hand. "I insist." He carefully lifted the wheelchair and rolled it into his garage, inspecting the damage. The front wheel assembly was bent, the frame misaligned, and the right brake barely worked. This wasn't a quick fix. It would take parts, labor, and time, things Tom couldn't afford to spare. His small auto shop was already struggling, bills piling up, and work had been slow. But none of that mattered as he looked at the boy, now sitting on a stool, watching him work with a mix of awe and excitement. Tom worked late into the evening, fabricating a replacement part from an old bicycle frame he had lying around. The mother checked the time on her phone repeatedly, but Tom reassured her. "This isn't just about fixing a wheelchair," he said as he tightened the last bolt. "It's about giving him the freedom to move again." When he rolled the wheelchair back out, the little boy gasped. Tom hadn't just repaired it, he had improved it. The wheels were stronger, the brakes functioned perfectly, and he had even adjusted the seat for better comfort. The boy hesitated for a moment before gripping the wheels and pushing himself forward. His face lit up with pure joy as he moved effortlessly across the pavement. "It works. It's better than before," he exclaimed. The mother's eyes filled with tears. She reached for Tom's hand, squeezing it tightly. "Thank you. You have no idea what this means to us." Tom only smiled. "That's what mechanics do. We fix things." As they left, Tom exhaled, exhausted but satisfied. He had done the right thing, even if it had cost him a day's work. What he didn't know, however, was that this simple act of kindness had set something unimaginable in motion. 2 days later, just as Tom was locking up for the night, a deep rumbling sound filled the air, a sound unlike anything he had ever heard before. He stepped outside, squinting into the sky. Then he saw it. A private jet, gleaming under the evening sun, descended toward the small airstrip just beyond the town's outskirts. Tom had lived in this town for years, and he had never seen anything like this before. The jet's wheels touched down smoothly, sending up a cloud of dust. He stood frozen as a sleek black car pulled up alongside it. His heart pounded. He had no idea why, but something told him that whatever was about to happen next would change everything. Tom stood in stunned silence as the private jet came to a smooth stop on the small airstrip outside town. It was completely out of place. No one in this area owned anything remotely close to that level of luxury. The airstrip was mostly used for crop dusters and the occasional emergency medical flight. But this jet, it was something else entirely. A sleek black car had pulled up beside it, its tinted windows hiding whoever was inside. Tom swallowed hard. He had no reason to be nervous, but something about this entire situation felt bigger than him. The door of the jet finally opened, and a set of metal stairs unfolded smoothly. A sharply dressed man in a tailored suit stepped out first, adjusting his tie as he scanned the area. He turned slightly and motioned toward the jet. A second man appeared, older, with silver hair and a commanding presence. He descended the stairs with purpose, his polished shoes reflecting the last light of the setting sun. Tom had no idea who they were, but everything about them screamed wealth and influence. He was about to turn away when the older man locked eyes with him. Tom stiffened. The man spoke to the first guy, who immediately nodded and walked toward the black car. Within seconds, the car's engine roared to life and started moving straight toward Tom's garage. His pulse quickened. Why were they coming here? What could they possibly want with him? He took a deep breath and wiped his hands on his greasy, stained overalls as the car pulled up right in front of his shop. The first man stepped out, adjusting his cufflinks before giving Tom a polite nod. Tom Carter. Tom hesitated. Yeah, that's me. The man smiled slightly. My name is Daniel Grayson. I represent Mr. Alexander Whitmore. He gestured toward the older man, who was now stepping out of the vehicle. May we have a word? Tom glanced around, half expecting a camera to pop out, as if this were some elaborate prank. But there was nothing, just these two powerful men standing in front of his struggling garage. Sure, Tom said, clearing his throat. What can I do for you? Alexander Whitmore stepped forward, his piercing gaze studying Tom. 2 days ago, you repaired a wheelchair for a young boy. You refused payment and worked late into the night to make sure it was perfect. Tom's stomach tightened. He hadn't thought much about it after they left. It was just the right thing to do. Yeah, he said cautiously. I did. A small smile touched Whitmore's lips. That boy is my grandson. Tom's eyes widened as the pieces suddenly clicked together. The well-dressed men, the private jet, the black car. It all made sense now. He had helped someone far more important than he had realized. Whitmore continued, his voice steady. My daughter told me everything. How you refused payment, how you used your own resources, how you spent hours making sure his wheelchair was not just fixed, but better than before. Tom shrugged, suddenly feeling self-conscious. It was just a wheelchair. He needed it. I couldn't just let him struggle. Whitmore's eyes darkened with something Tom couldn't quite place. Respect, gratitude, something more. It wasn't just a wheelchair. It was his independence. And you gave that back to him. Tom had no idea what to say. He was just a small-town mechanic. He fixed cars, bikes, the occasional lawnmower. But this felt bigger than anything he had ever done. Whitmore studied him for a moment before speaking again. I don't believe in debts, Tom. I believe in rewarding good people. He glanced at Daniel, who nodded and pulled a sleek black envelope from his coat. I have an offer for you. Tom stared at the envelope, his heart hammering. What kind of offer? Whitmore smiled slightly. The kind that will change your life. Tom stared at the envelope in Daniel's hand, his fingers twitching slightly. He had no idea what was inside, but the weight of the moment pressed down on him like a heavy engine block. He was just a mechanic. Nothing in his life had ever led him to believe he would one day be standing in front of a billionaire, being offered something that could, as Whitmore claimed, change his life. With a deep breath, he took the envelope and carefully opened it. Inside was a single sheet of high-quality paper. His eyes scanned the words, but his brain refused to process them at first. He blinked, shook his head slightly, and looked again. It was a business proposal, a contract, and at the bottom, a number so large that Tom felt his knees weaken. This can't be real, he whispered. Whitmore's expression remained unreadable. It's very real, Whitmore replied. Tom swallowed, struggling to form words. You want to hire me? Whitmore nodded. Not just hire you. I want to bring you onto my team. You would be running a state-of-the-art facility, designing and repairing high-end mobility equipment. Your skills, your passion, they're wasted in this tiny garage. He glanced around at the dim lighting, the outdated tools, the concrete floor stained with years of grease and oil. You deserve more. Tom's hands trembled as he held the contract. The salary alone was more money than he had ever imagined earning in his lifetime. And then there were the benefits: housing, medical, access to resources he never even knew existed. His throat felt dry. "Why me?" he asked. Whitmore's expression softened. "Because people like you are rare. You didn't help my grandson for money. You did it because it was the right thing to do. That kind of integrity, that kind of kindness, it's worth more than any degree or resume." Tom could feel his heart pounding. The offer was overwhelming, too big to wrap his head around. He had spent his whole life scraping by, barely making ends meet. His garage was his world, the only thing he knew. Walking away from it, could he even do that? Whitmore seemed to sense his hesitation. "Take your time, think it over. But know this: if you say yes, you will never have to struggle again. You will have the resources to truly change lives, just like you did for my grandson." Tom exhaled slowly. His mind raced with questions. Could he leave this town? Could he step into a world so far beyond anything he had ever known? He looked back at the contract, then at Whitmore. "I need some time," he said. Whitmore nodded. "Of course, but I will need an answer soon." Tom watched as the billionaire and his assistant turned and walked back to their car. The jet was still waiting, its engines humming softly in the distance. As the car pulled away, Tom looked down at the contract again. His entire life had been about fixing things: cars, bikes, engines. But now, for the first time ever, he had the chance to fix something even bigger: his own future. Tom barely slept that night. The contract sat on his workbench, the numbers and words swimming in his head. Every time he closed his eyes, it wasn't just a job offer. It was a complete transformation of his life. But leaving everything behind, stepping into a world he knew nothing about, terrified him more than anything. The next morning, he went about his usual routine, hoping the comfort of his garage would bring him clarity. He tightened bolts, checked engine fluids, and worked through a transmission issue on an old truck. But no matter how much he tried to focus, his mind kept drifting back to that envelope. Midway through the afternoon, a familiar sound broke his thoughts: the soft hum of an electric wheelchair. Tom turned, and there was little Ben, grinning as he maneuvered toward him with ease. His mother, Olivia, followed closely, smiling just as brightly. "It's perfect," Ben announced, his excitement radiating. "It moves so smoothly, and I barely have to push the controls." Tom knelt beside him, inspecting the wheels and making sure everything was still functioning correctly. "That's what I like to hear. No issues at all." Ben shook his head. "None. You're the best mechanic ever." Tom chuckled, but Olivia's expression turned serious. She stepped closer and lowered her voice. "I heard about the offer," she said. Tom tensed. News traveled fast in a small town. He wasn't surprised, but it still caught him off guard. "Yeah, I'm still thinking it over," he replied. Olivia sighed. "Tom, I know you love this garage. I know it's your life. But do you realize what this opportunity means? You could help so many people. There are kids like Ben everywhere, struggling with mobility, needing someone with your skills." Tom looked at the boy, his heart squeezing. He had never thought about it that way. Fixing Ben's wheelchair had been a simple act of kindness. But what if he could do that on a bigger scale? Olivia continued, "You've spent your life helping others. But this is your chance to do it in a way that truly changes lives." Tom swallowed hard. He had always been the guy who worked quietly in the background, fixing what was broken. The idea of stepping into a bigger role, one where people relied on him at a higher level, felt daunting. Before he could respond, Ben reached out and grabbed his hand, his small fingers squeezing tightly. "If you go, will you still fix my chair if it ever breaks?" Tom felt his throat tighten, emotion rising up. He nodded, fighting back the lump in his throat. "Of course, buddy. Always." Ben paused for a moment before speaking again. "Then I think you should go." Tom exhaled slowly, the weight of the decision pressing harder than ever. He had been searching for an answer, and maybe, just maybe, it had just found him. Tom stood in his garage long after Ben and Olivia had left, staring at the contract on his workbench. His hands hovered over the paper, but he couldn't bring himself to sign it. The decision felt bigger than anything he had ever faced before. He had spent his life in this garage, pouring his heart into every repair, helping the people in his town with whatever they needed. Leaving it all behind felt like abandoning a part of himself. As he paced back and forth, the sound of an approaching vehicle broke through his thoughts. Tires crunched on gravel, and he turned just in time to see a sleek black car pull up. The driver stepped out, wearing a crisp suit and dark sunglasses. Tom recognized him instantly. It was the same man who had arrived with the private jet days earlier. The man approached with a confident stride, extending his hand. "Tom, I hope you've had time to think things over." Tom shook his hand, but hesitated. "I have, but I'm not sure I'm the right guy for this." The man studied him for a moment before gesturing toward the car. "Take a ride with me. I want to show you something." Tom frowned, but nodded, curiosity getting the better of him. He climbed into the passenger seat, and within minutes, they were driving out of town. The man remained silent, letting the scenery pass in quiet contemplation. Finally, they pulled onto a long road leading to a massive facility. Tom's eyes widened as he took in the size of the place. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. The man parked and led him inside, where a group of engineers and mechanics worked on various mobility devices, wheelchairs, prosthetics, and high-tech equipment designed to help people with disabilities. Tom watched in awe as they tested different models, each one more advanced than the last. "This is what we do," the man said, his voice steady. "And we need someone like you. Someone who doesn't just fix things, but cares about the people using them. Your work with Ben showed us that. It's why we chose you." Tom swallowed hard, his emotions swirling. He had always believed his work mattered, but seeing the lives being changed, made everything feel even bigger. He turned to the man, his heart pounding. "What happens if I say yes?" The man smiled. "Then your life changes forever." Tom exhaled, staring at the facility, the people inside, and the future that suddenly seemed so clear. For the first time since receiving the offer, he knew exactly what he had to do. Tom stood at the entrance of the facility, his hands resting on his hips as he looked around. The decision had been made. He was going to take the offer. A new life, a new purpose, a chance to do something that would change lives far beyond the small garage he had called home for years. Inside, engineers worked with quiet focus, assembling custom wheelchairs, prosthetic limbs, and mobility devices designed to improve lives. Tom noticed the passion in their eyes, the same passion he had always felt when fixing something for someone in need. He took a deep breath, letting it all sink in. The man in the suit approached him again, handing him a badge with his name on it. "Welcome to the team, Tom. We've been waiting for someone like you." Tom turned the badge over in his hand, feeling the weight of it. He wasn't just a mechanic anymore. He was part of something much bigger. Weeks passed in a blur. Tom threw himself into the work, learning new techniques, experimenting with advanced technology, and helping to design better mobility solutions. He had never felt so challenged, yet so fulfilled. Every day, he met people whose lives had been transformed because of what they were building, and every day, he thought about Ben and Olivia. Then, one morning, as Tom walked into the facility, he noticed a familiar figure sitting in a brand new wheelchair. It was Ben. The boy's eyes lit up when he saw Tom, and Olivia, standing beside him, wiped a tear from her cheek. "I wanted to surprise you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "They built this just for him. It's state-of-the-art. He can move so much easier now, and it's all because of you." Tom knelt beside Ben, examining the sleek design of the wheelchair. "How does it feel, buddy?" Ben grinned. "Like I can go anywhere." Tom felt his chest tighten. This was why he had said yes. This was why he had taken the leap. Olivia reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. "And there's one more thing. Ben and I wanted to do something for you." Tom hesitated before taking the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter from Ben. He read the words slowly, his throat tightening. Thank you for fixing my old wheelchair. But more than that, thank you for believing in me. You didn't just fix something. You changed my life." Tom closed his eyes for a moment, taking in the weight of the words. Then he smiled at Ben, ruffling his hair. "Nobody, you changed mine.